What is up, tasties and tastettes? Welcome back to another episode of FTW GT Weekly. Before we get into this week's episode, I did have a couple of quick housekeeping notes for you. First off, for some of you that aren't aware, we've actually upgraded our computer in the studio, and it is a total beast. But with that being said, along the way you run into some growing pains with new stuff, and this week's growing pain was, for whatever reason, the last 5 minutes of the audio on microphone stopped recording. The program just seized up on us. So we switch over to camera quality audio at the very end. Still perfectly audible. Promise I wouldn't have used it otherwise, but just wanted you guys to be aware. But more importantly and lastly, I wanted to get to the elephant in the room. You know, if you guys are listening, it's quite obvious. I'm just talking by myself right now. And if you're watching, you've probably been asking from the jump here, where's Matty 2 times? Where's Matt at? Where's your partner in crime? And I want to let you guys in on that story because it wouldn't be me to make something up here. It wouldn't be me with Matt not being present to try and control the narrative and create some ruse or elaborate story. That's just not me, and you guys know that. So from here on out, complete transparency, no lies to be told. You heard last week's episode. If you didn't, the link should be right up above, left, right, to, fro, I don't know. But you heard the episode. Matt shared some controversial takes on Joe Rogan. And the news only escalated last week after our episode on UFC 271 that we previewed. Joe Rogan actually didn't get to take part. And that hit Matt. It hit him right in the feels, right down in his cojones, in his loins. And he took it to heart. And this week, he's decided, like Eminem, to take a knee. He's taken a knee during the intro to this episode because he stands with Joe Rogan and his use of the N-word on 70 plus episodes. So maybe, though, I was thinking, in an effort to convince him to come back, because what's the show without him? You know, he's 50% of the product. He's far funnier than me, much better looking. We need to get that guy back. So you need to do me a favor. He'll come back, I promise. If you guys like the video, if you hit the subscribe, tap the notification bell, and by doing that, we'll cleanse him of his evil doings. So stick around, and maybe, if we're lucky again, Matt will strap in, he'll strap up, because this episode's fucking awesome, and maybe we'll see him on the other side.
For those with good taste.
Welcome back, compadre.
Man, feels good to be back.
Feels good to have you here in the flesh. Feel the warmth of your touch, the tenderness of your embrace.
You better be careful, man, because we'll shut these cameras off and it'll get weird.
Why don't we leave them on and just get fucking freaky, dude?
Well, I mean, things couldn't get any more freakier than our last episode when the boys went to the digital age, man.
Yeah, it was like we're dipping our toe into the metaverse early.
We need to get some land in there, dude. We gotta, open up a farm.
We gotta Christopher Columbus that bitch.
I don't think that's the best approach because in 100 years from now, we'll get canceled.
Yeah, but that's something that's for our kids to deal with.
Oh, you're saying that's like a tomorrow problem?
Like young Soph, newest addition to the pod, she's gonna have to deal with the ramifications of you Columbusing the metaverse. But dude, me and you, we're scot-free, dude.
Yeah, we're gonna be fine.
Wait, are we gonna live way longer if we go to the metaverse?
That does bring up a little bit of a concern there, because if it's just transferring our conscious into the metaverse, there's no time limit to that, dude.
And is there a never-ending expansiveness to how big the metaverse could be? So you know how the fear would be now that eventually we're gonna run out of Earth, right?
Yeah, people are trying to go to Mars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In this,
California's running out of water.
I love this because this is a big fuck you to Elon, isn't it? It's a big old fuck you. We're going digital instead of going to your dumbass Mars plan, dude.
We don't need water in the metaverse. Wait, how's that gonna work?
We'll probably eat bitcoins or something. That'll convert. You know, little I don't know if this is appropriate. You know, the little Jewish coins that you eat at
I
Hanukkah
don't,
time?
Lenny. Hanukkah time, huh? Why don't you tell me about Hanukkah time? Why don't you tell me about Yom Kippur?
The ones filled with chocolate.
Sure.
You know the ones I'm talking about?
Listen,
they come
man.
in a little baggy.
I have only heard about this theory on South Park, and it's a myth that Cartman says that Kyle has a little bag of Jew gold around his neck.
Well, it wasn't I'm not saying it's a real bag of gold, but it's a little chocolate dollar coins.
All right, man.
I don't know if that might be offensive. Who knows?
So you're saying Bitcoin isn't actually going to be our form of currency? It's going to be what we eat?
It'll be those.
Oh,
yeah.
it'll go both ways.
Like a buy.
Like a buy.
Sure,
yeah,
okay,
come on, man.
Great.
Like a buy metaverse, my man.
Yeah.
But enough about the future. Let's talk about the past, buddy.
The past? You want to go?
Yeah.
How far back?
Let's go back to the future.
Now you've confused me because now are we back in the metaverse again? Like, because you've 180'd your 360, which I think makes it to 540.
Which I think means
but
I'm
Tony
right
Hawk
back.
did a 900 before Shaun White did a 1080.
Who just
And
retired.
now TVs are 4K.
But they started off in 720.
Oh! What the fuck? We just know the numbers.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Did that just
Keep up
happen?
with that at home.
Whoa.
Figure that math out, huh?
We need to get Tony Hawk in here to
Oh.
confirm this, but I think we just solved everything.
We did some kind of math. It's what I was trying to think of. Is it like the Charlie Day thing where it's just like all the numbers and
Yes.
stuff floating by?
He's
him,
got
right?
the little thread
No,
count.
you know what it is? I'm sorry. It is
No,
the Hangover.
Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, it was the Hangover. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's called like that's what was just happening to us there.
Which technically that's a ripoff of Rain Man. So shout out to Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
And
Our Lord and Savior, Tom Cruise.
what's it, Matt Hoffman?
Dustin
Hoffman. There we
Dusty
go.
Hoffs, dude.
Dusty Hoffs. Dude, well, you want to talk about getting canceled. Let's be careful talking about Dusty Hoffs. Anyway,
he did
dude.
some weird shit.
Yeah, he's done some weird shit.
I was almost gonna call him the person from the movie what's the movie with Diane Lane when she's cheating on her Unfaithful, but that's Richard Gere, I think.
You're way too involved with like thriller comedies that end in women killing their husbands.
Sure. Yeah, except I've never seen Gone Girl. I've never seen Gone Girl before.
I also have never seen Gone Girl.
Yeah,
I was
nor-
boycotting Ben Affleck at that time.
Because he was canceled?
I really
Bad
just
tattoos.
yeah, he was going through a phase.
Yeah,
I had watched Argo and I really didn't appreciate it for what it was.
I've never seen it, but
It's another good
we'll get
film.
into Best Pictures later.
It's all right, man.
So yeah, like
What's been up with you,
I
dude?
wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about myself, if we didn't mind.
I mean, it wouldn't be a good episode if we didn't.
Yeah, like I just, I'm the star of the show, so let me make this all about myself.
That's why they made you bigger in the logo. This is bullshit, dude.
Yeah, it's not just because my natural girth.
I'm getting shafted and didn't even know it.
Yeah,
Well,
you will.
tell us about yourself, buddy.
So obviously I have recently gotten a haircut, Matt.
What?
Yeah,
Oh shit, you
news to
did.
you. Yeah, news to you, buddy.
I thought you had a hat on. What the hell
Um,
happened?
So yeah, I got a haircut recently, and and some of the people might have gathered this by now, but like, that's one of those things that I would find very uncomfortable normally, because I just don't want to have small talk.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Knowing your
gross,
personality.
yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's small talk, gross.
With somebody touching you.
Yeah, exactly. So I get this girl who is, and I'm gonna be kind of delicate, people, about the way I speak about this, because on one hand, I'm gonna be very critical, and I'm probably too critical. On the other hand, she might be my future wife. That might be weird. I know.
Hold on. Do me a
I
favor.
know.
Can you set the scene for the haircut? Like, are there other people in the spot, or is it just you two?
So funny you ask, Matt. It was actually somehow I'm at this fucking I don't want to say the place either, but a small
Hey, look at me. Look at me. Does this establishment have a power? Would you consider them
No, don't do that. Don't do that, because I don't want to like get
free
too close
advertising
to this one. So like,
She might be listening.
It's not like a major haircut chain or anything like that anybody could go to around the country.
It's not a hero.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a gyro, dude. So
Continue.
it's just me and the girl in the haircut place, in the salon. Getting my haircut. There is somebody in the back doing something, but they're not paying attention enough.
Holding the video camera.
And this girl is just chatting away, basically with herself, because there was times where I would try to say stuff and she just wouldn't break in like sentence. She was going at like 1,000,000 miles an hour the whole time.
Oh, so you couldn't get a word in edgewise?
Like occasionally I would, and I would like get something and it would be like a good little one-liner, but then she would just be right back into it.
Oh, like
Which,
she didn't even miss a beat?
I think is like a gift and a curse, because I was like, that's kind of obnoxious, and I think this would become very like exhausting at some point. But it's kind of nice because I don't have to handle any of the awkwardness of this of this situation.
Yeah, let her kind of take control of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my ideal situation, and I think anybody should be. I know we have some fans out there who have no hair on their head, so they probably can relate to this, right? Like, it's nice to just get in there, get the haircut done, get out. you know?
Yeah, because it could, like, at least for me, now that I'm cutting my own hair, it could take like an hour and maybe an hour and 15. But a guy's haircut, 30 minutes, hour and a half, who knows what it could take.
Well, because what I've found recently, dude, is like apparently like men are super bitches about their haircuts.
You've said that about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why are you generalizing now?
Well, okay, so yeah, you're a super bitch about your no, but like hair has to be like a certain length and like I don't know, I guess like
length and girth are important when you're talking about hair, dude.
So with that being said, I don't care that much about my haircut.
Yeah, you're not really a size guy.
I don't give a fuck about the
size
length of my hair.
Yeah.
So she is like going over my head multiple times to the point where she's like, yeah, I always try to make sure to like go over it a couple times because I don't want to miss any spots on your head, right? And you did this whole thing at the beginning. You tried to make this whole thing at the beginning, like you didn't recognize that I got a haircut. But when I got here,
this is ironic.
This is why I want to bring this up because like you brought this up when I got here. You were like, oh, there's like you got a haircut, like it looks nice, except they missed like all these like little hairs along the side here. And I'm like,
just being a bro.
I'm like, what the fuck? Because this girl literally went on a 10-minute spiel about how like she doesn't want to, like she makes sure not to miss any little hairs because like, you know, she has to have it look nice when you leave. She has OCD and all this stuff. And the first thing you fucking tell me is she missed hair. Insane. Talk too much, you're going to miss some shit. I knew it the whole fucking time. But that's not where it really went bad for me, Matt. Like that was just like, this is my newest part of why this is. Like,
wait, it got lower than this?
Yeah, this was my original like Fire Fest. My original low point to all of this was so that they, at the very end of the haircut, she's like lining me up and everything, right? And she's like, did you want me to get like your ear hairs are kind of like growing out? She's like, do you want me to get your ear hairs? And I'm like, fuck, man.
Bitch. I'm sorry. I would never call a woman a bitch, but this is one of those instances where it might call for it.
And like, what am I going to do at that moment? So I was like, sure, go ahead.
You know, I'm curious. How old is this girl? Give or take.
This is where some of it was coming because obviously the whole time we have to like, if you find somebody attractive, you have to play the game of like, what's the age range on this thing?
Yeah.
And I've gathered like early to mid 20s is what I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was already an age gap, right?
All right.
But she's like, yeah.
That was definitely an age gap.
She's like, sometimes she's like, yeah, you have to be like really careful when you ask people because some people get like kind of awkward about it because, you know, it's like, you know, it means you're getting old. And I was like, oh, why would you do that?
Double down on the bitch.
Yeah. And I
can't believe you just did that.
Damn it. And so then I realized like, fuck, I am old, dude. Like, it's like, 30. You know, I'm 32 years old, and that's just too old.
Here's the thing, man. At least like that's a pretty like normal. I guess you could say a natural way to kind of find out that you're progressing in age. Like it wasn't like you figured it out yourself, right? You know when I figured out I was old, Len?
When's that?
So little event happened this past weekend.
Yes.
Some would call the biggest event of the year.
In the continental United States.
The Super Bowl. Yeah, the Super Bowl happened. And the even bigger event is the halftime show. And in years past, I don't know about you, but I'd be one of those people who's like, who the hell is going to be in the halftime show? Aerosmith? Freaking, who else is old? AC/DC? Are they even around?
Stones.
The Rolling Stones.
Prince.
Yeah.
He's really old.
Michael Jackson? I don't think he did the halftime show.
Also really old.
But I'm just thinking, I'm like, yeah, this isn't for us, man. This is like for our parents, our grandparents.
Don't skip the fact, though, that they have given us like Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Beyonce.
The Weeknd, sure. The Shakira and J-Lo one. Yeah, my neck is still hurting from that one. Mm-hmm. But this halftime show, I'm watching, I'm like, oh, snap, they're bringing out all the GOATs. They got Snoop Dogg, they got Eminem, they got Dr. Dre, they got 50 Cent, they got Mary J. Blige. Kendrick Lamar, I almost forgot Kendrick, right? And I'm like, oh, this is one of the best Super Bowl shows they've ever done. And then I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, my mom would like this.
Yeah.
I like this. All these people are really old. Mary J. Blige, love you to death, woman. You shouldn't be in that outfit.
I could envision my mother like making me uncomfortable because she's trying to like dance to.
Woo!
Yeah.
Just getting all pumped.
Like too much into it because she heard this on like Kiss 108 when I was a little kid.
And then I saw 50 Cent hanging down, upside down, like a... I'm going to try and be... I'm not going to be insensitive.
Okay, like this is really dangerous where you're going here. You don't go Rogan on us, dude.
I wouldn't do that. He was hanging there like a piece of meat in a butcher shop, dude.
That's okay. I guess.
All right,
apropos,
I'm saying it, dude. I'm saying it, dude.
Literally the best outcome we could have gotten out of that whole thing. I don't know where we were gonna go with that one. My whole thing was like, I feel terrible for him because he is a guy who's predominantly been in good shape his whole life. I think, right? His videos always made him look rather jacked because he always wore a white beater.
Yeah.
And was like always yoked
And
out.
we know he could take a shot.
But they have this man upside down for who knows the fuck how long, right? And he comes down from there, and he just looks like all the blood's in his head. And he's like out of breath. He's sweating.
He's swelling, dude.
Yeah, and I felt so bad for
Yeah,
this man. And
they had
I'm
to
not
ice his
fat-shaming,
ankles,
but,
dude.
Like, yeah, he was
It was rough, man. So
I'm just great. Yeah.
I'm just saying, at least your realization that you're getting old didn't happen on like a monumental scale,
I
like
think
watching the Super Bowl.
You weren't alone in that, though, dude. I feel like everybody had this like holy shit, like I thought they were finally like being hip and cool, and it's like nope, actually we're just no longer hip and cool either.
Nope, we've reached that age. Yeah. Like we're gonna get to the point where people are like, oh, this halftime show sucks, and we're like, man, this was really the good old days here. But
I'll take it though. Like I don't mind if that's what we keep. I don't know what you do next. Like it's gotta be a hard job picking who does the Super Bowl. When's Taylor Swift gonna do a Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a good mixture of both, right? Because you had Kendrick Lamar there; he's still part of the
he
youth
doesn't
movement.
really. Correct me if I'm wrong. He is younger, but he doesn't really put out music anymore.
Really?
Stats guy. What the fuck,
Okay.
dude? When was the last time Kendrick Lamar put an album out? Huh?
You really got to be better than that.
What
man.
the fuck?
Like we
brother?
talked about this, bro.
Yeah,
Like we realized that we could do it without you digitally. Like you do realize, like you're just taking up space at this point.
Yeah. We're actually just gonna make you show up to all the digital ones and not even do your job. You're just gonna sit there and time out with a dunce cap on.
And like music is your shit, dude. So what?
Yeah, it's wild.
Okay.
Wow.
Nah, I have no idea, dude.
Yeah, I just don't think he's come out with music in a while. But it is a bit weird. I think it's got to be a stressful job. And I do believe this year was the first year they've really catered to the general public. I didn't hear anybody who didn't actually enjoy, anything.
Oh, he released an album last year.
No, it says his last studio album was 2017. Damn.
Really?
But then...
Oh, no, I looked at a different...
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah, so I think I was right. He's got another one coming, possibly. Anywho,
Okay. No, I get it. I understand what you're saying. It's not current.
He's one of the best modern rappers, but I just don't think he's really produced a ton of music. And he was bumped in there. He was probably my favorite part. Somebody said that they thought he was the worst part. I quite disagree. To me, Kendrick Lamar was not my favorite artist out of those people in real life.
No.
But in that performance, I thought his energy matched the tone the best.
No, I thought he did a decent job. I mean, the only person that I was really, really hyped to see was Eminem, and maybe
I didn't love his.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but I was hyped to I was anticipating it.
I just was hoping with him that he would do you started off with Forgot About Dre, but didn't actually do it, and it's just weird to not do a song with Dre when you have so many songs with Dre.
I thought the song choices, as a whole, even Mary J. Blige's "No More Pain," what are we doing? This isn't. You're not getting me hyped on
She was
this song.
trying though. She was for sure trying. But I thought Kendrick's to your point.
Careful.
Kendrick's song choice fit the bill.
Fit the bill. Yeah.
I thought Dre and Snoop's song choice also fit the bill.
I mean, they were in L.A., California love.
Yeah.
No freaking hologram Tupac.
Yeah, man. I had egg on my face for that one because I fell for a headline again, dude.
What's up with you having stuff on your face, dude?
Yeah, it happens.
Egg on your
Frosting
face
and stuff. That's a saying. Yeah.
You live alone. Who's slapping you with egg on your face?
Well, egg just means you said something and it backfired on you.
Okay, that's happened to me quite a few times.
Yeah,
we call that getting
definitely. You had
bukkake.
it happened not too long ago, about 50 Cent hanging from the ceiling.
I got my way through that though.
Yeah,
we're
all
right.
sure navigated the fucking web of that one. Good.
No, man, but probably not the.
Nate, you know what you should have probably said he was? He was
What?
a beast from X-Men.
No, because you want to talk about not being current. I really would have aged myself there.
We already did though.
No, I know, but we don't need to further acknowledge it, dude. We need to lean back, as someone would say.
Yeah.
But it is something about big news, dude. And I would say that the Super Bowl this weekend probably not even the biggest news for you.
Coming out of this weekend, some big news has dropped. Actually, today, to be honest, it's for me personally, and for a large segment of our audience, because we are mad, as we've been touting, the number 2 ranked podcast in Nicaragua focused on wrestling.
And unlike Bono, we're okay being number 2.
Yeah, no, trust me, we have no issue with number 2s.
I've been called this shit before in my life.
We do them multiple times a day.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're cleaned out.
It's probably the best time of my day.
I eat a lot of salad. So, to feed to our wrestling fans out there,
it's only right.
Big fucking news happened today, dude. And I think this is something that might transcend a little bit because I feel like he's a person that a lot of general, like if you have a general knowledge of professional wrestling, and it's just big news in general. Cody Rhodes is leaving AEW. It's kind of nuts.
Huge news when you think about the first couple episodes that we did for this podcast when we first kicked off, and we really talk about AEW kind of becoming a finished product and really starting to challenge the WWE as far as bringing in big names and A-listers. And Cody Rhodes was kind of at the forefront of all that. I think
he was like him and Jericho
were the guys.
Like Jericho being their biggest A-lister, but like the second biggest is definitely Cody Rhodes as far as having been on a major screen scale, and like obviously his last name is being what it is.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He headlined their first pay-per-view.
Yeah.
He?
I mean, he's basically an owner. Like he's part of the reason.
I hesitated to say it, but I was pretty sure about that. Yeah,
he's part of the reason they got off the ground is Cody Rhodes' investment, both in his notoriety and I believe
using his name.
I might be wrong,
definitely.
But it's just kind of crazy to see where they're at now. But I don't think anybody thought it would go this far. But the rumor is he's going back to the WWE, and the reason this is a big deal to me is like this is the big swing going back the other way for the first time.
Yep.
Because what's happened over the past year is WWE has cut a major amount of talent. And a lot of them have showed up on AEW TV. And this is just a big fish to swing the other way, which I would assume WWE is paying a ton of money. And not to jump ahead on this, but just immediately I'll say, like, I'm not optimistic about the decision. Not because I doubt Cody Rhodes necessarily, but because I doubt the powers that be in the WWE to handle something like this correctly. And they're going to, like, bring him in and he'll be gone in a year, you know?
I wanted to kind of get a little bit more insight into that line of thinking because I know as a fan, especially when we're talking about AEW, when you were talking to me about the opportunities that AEW provided to its talent to really be themselves, to market themselves, you know, there were several instances where the WWE was almost, inhibiting the opportunities of certain talents to make money outside of the WWE. They weren't really able to use their names. Few people were able to stream on Twitch and kind of utilize the WWE headline, but it wasn't universal.
If we're going to shine a light right now on somebody who's not being utilized and they're basically stealing a major part of their careers, Mustafa Ali has requested his release for months now.
Yeah. When's the last time he's performed?
Like a year ago, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Like they've tried to bring him back a couple times recently, but he's just over it at this point. He's pitched things like. And something happened with him and Vince McMahon that he's just had a falling out with it, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. And his requested his release, and they won't honor it. And he's got 2.5 years left on his deal that he could possibly just have to sit there if they don't let him go.
Jeez,
isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, but it's also like on a bigger scheme of things. It's surprising how many sports that happens in. Yeah. Where like guys are sitting out for 3-4 years of their career,
right?
Yeah, so that's another current topic. One for soccer fans, Gareth Bale, who was like $120 million guy 4 years ago.
What team?
Real Madrid. So like one of the biggest teams in Spain. Currently makes more money than anybody else on that team. Sits on the bench. End of his contract comes up this summer.
And why is he? Because like obviously, I think a lot of people probably know about the Ben Simmons stuff.
So like the Ben Simmons thing is more player related. Like it's the player's choice and what he's deciding to do that's keeping him out of playing.
Is the team mad he won't re-sign?
No, in this instance, like there's been so many coaches that have gone through that team that he doesn't fit every system that they want him to play, and they've sent him out on loan. They've completely took him off the roster to the point where the running joke was that he would rather play golf than play for his his football team.
It's kind of like all the jokes about like LeBron being at the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So it's interesting because it's on the team. Like the coaches don't play him. They'll leave him on the bench. They'll make him warm up for 10 minutes like he's about to go in and then sit him down. So all of these instances where you're just seeing talent wasted for whatever reason, whether it's on the team or if it's on the player, it's sad to see either way.
Yeah, in this instance, it's like it seems like Cody Rhodes has had kind of a tumultuous relationship with AEW management. It is tough, and it was always going to be difficult here, where the original like 6 or 7 guys had a lot of booking power, and as they've brought more and more people in that they need to focus shine on, it's going to require these people with booking power to take a step back. And this was some of the downfall of WCW at the time. And I think what happened was after that first year, they realized this was going to happen, and Tony Khan took over far more booking responsibility and became far more involved on that side of things, and took all of that power away from Cody Rhodes and the Jacksons, like the Young Bucks, like those guys, to where I just don't think that Cody Rhodes had the same control that he had before. The fans are kind of starting to turn on him.
The project's going in a different direction than he anticipated, things like that.
It is in some ways, but it is weird because at the same time, he's very committed within the TBS like TV model.
Okay.
He's on a show with Shaq for it's like a game show. And I think he's got something else
going
on there.
So he's part of the DNA of that network, so to speak?
They've invested, the network itself has invested a lot of time in him. For him to walk during free agency, it's got to be a big thing. And I mean, it's got to be something to do with the WWE needs to get some good publicity on themselves, some good PR. And I think bringing in somebody like Cody Rhodes is such a big fish to bring back in that it outweighs the fact that Keith Lee showed up last week. The fact that Switchblade Jay White showed up from New Japan last week. It's like all these guys, Adam Cole's there, Daniel Bryan, obviously all this stuff is going on there, and it's all swinging.
John Moxley.
It's their opportunity to take one of the top guys, one of the original ones, the foundation of that company, and bring them back into the fold. It's crazy.
So is this, do you think, being a fan, do you think that this is a kickstart to a pattern that we might see with the WWE where they're bringing in bigger names, well-known names, commodities that they can still maybe get a little bit from in this time where we're kind of transitioning? Because I still see a lot of Brock Lesnar at a time where Roman Reigns was kind of sitting at the top. We see Brock come back in here.
Well, you have 2 different networks that want stars.
Yeah.
So that's why you're going to see a world where Brock can exist at the same time Roman does.
Yeah.
Because you can put them in separate ecosystems when you feel like it. You can also bring them together when you
want. Like you said, ecosystems, they are the big sharks of that, that project. So
everything's a pyramid scheme, right? There's going to be the top guys, there's going to be the guys underneath them, and some stuff in between. And Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns are clearly the 2 biggest guys. I don't know where Cody Rhodes fits into that, because the difficult thing is, as much as this is huge news, again, like I said earlier, it's what the WWE does with it, and they've showed nothing of recent memory to say they can handle this properly. They might have a good short-term story, but they can't even stick to that sometimes.
Yeah.
So my fear would be is Cody Rhodes to them was always a mid-card guy, right? And just because he went out on his own and
made himself a big name,
of himself, despite them, I don't know that Vince is going to treat him that much better once he actually has him on a contract for 4 years for a bunch of money, or if Cody Rhodes is going to be fine going back to being fucking Stardust or whatever.
It may just be easier to sit there and make an example out of him, unfortunately.
Exactly.
That sucks.
One other big return for the WWE, while we have a couple minutes left to talk about wrestling here, that I think is relative and some people might be interested in, is it is rumored for WrestleMania that we might be getting the return of the Rattlesnake. Exactly.
What?
Yeah, so it's kind of nuts. It's going to be taking place in Texas this year.
Oh, okay.
And in the past 2 weeks,
apropos,
Kevin Owens, who uses the stunner as his finish, has been doing a lot of negative promos on Texas.
Oh, so maybe somebody's got to snap and bite back.
Yeah, and a couple years ago, apparently, Stone Cold got a wrestling ring brought out to his house and built. So he, in theory, has something on his property
that
to
he
get
can work
himself
on.
into shape. He's always said he could do another match. He would just need a period of time to get ready.
Prep. How old is Stone Cold now? 55, 56?
About that. If you want to just ballpark it, I think that's right. Yeah. Which is obviously it's a little older, but I think what you have to look at is Sting. Sting has been actually performing for the better part of the last year and putting on good matches because they know how to protect him within the mold of things.
But would you say that's Sting? Because it kind of felt like Sting was always out there, maybe on the regional circuit, doing little shows, doing things like that.
I mean, if TNA is regional show and WWE is regional.
Well, I guess, yeah. I guess I'm saying I felt like he's always been in shape So if he's been on those shows, cool.
You're right, but it doesn't change the fact that he's like 60.
Okay.
He's over 60,
All right.
I think.
I guess
That guy, I wouldn't mind if you found
what
that out
what
for
would
me.
you what would you say is the best case scenario to have a guy like Stone Cold come back in?
I mean, Stone Cold's style was not that of a high. Like once he broke his neck, he changed his whole style. He used to be a really ring like technician. Nowadays he is actually he's 62, still doing the damn thing. Nowadays, or like not nowadays, obviously, because he hasn't wrestled in over 10 years. But Stone Cold towards the end of his career was a brawler. He just threw a lot of punches and a lot of kicks. He knew how to make all of that matter, but he didn't have the style that I think would really hinder him that much. So
Okay.
I think if you gave him 10 minutes, he could go out there and do some stuff. He might get tired a lot quicker, but he's just, as far as psychology, he's one of the smartest wrestlers ever.
No, and I know, and I understand that his style was really just come in here and punch you in the face, stump a mud hole in you,
Hit a
stunner
and-
you,
yeah,
fucking done. He's not what cat's cradling it or anything like that, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah,
I was thinking of no, what's the Undertaker's move? When
skinning the cat.
Skinning the cat. Sorry.
I saw a really heartwarming picture of him having his daughter. He's showing his daughter doing
and
it.
that's
That
what
was
made me
awesome.
think of
Yeah,
it. That's
was
the
really
only reason
cool.
why I thought that. That's not called skinning the cat. When she
Yeah,
does the walk.
You're right.
So it's the final ride or something
no,
like
that's
that.
the last ride, which is power bomb. It's old school. That's what he calls
Old
it. is
school.
Old
Okay. Yeah.
Skinning the cat is what Shawn
The
Michaels
cat's cradle. What? That's like a pin.
did. Yeah,
I'm
it
an
is.
idiot.
Oh, I was like, yeah, you're going like actual wrestling.
Yeah,
like
grappling,
amateur
dude. Yeah,
wrestling,
trying
yeah.
to pull his pants down. Yeah, and Steve Austin's 57 years old.
Yeah, so he's getting
So,
up there.
okay.
But, one match, I don't think he'll make like a run.
Okay, that's interesting.
All right, so going from one set of greased up, sweaty dudes rubbing on each other to another pair of greased up, sweaty dudes sweating on each other. We watched the UFC this past weekend. We also gave our predictions. I think we both predicted Stylebender.
Yeah.
But we also both predicted Derek Lewis. Is that correct? Or did you predict
I think
Ty?
I picked Ty.
I think
yeah.
you might have. You might
Yeah.
have. So where do you want to start here? Do you want to start with Derek Lewis probably quit? during this
Oh
fight?
yeah, that'd be a good place to start. I think.
Okay, yeah.
Is there any other way to say it other than the fact that it seemed like
he knock him. It was a good performance. It was a good. He
had
hit
the
it
upper
well.
hand.
He hit it well. Like as far as like acting like you're out cold.
No, he just went out. Like
The
it's
most damning thing was the fact that he drops to a knee and then face plants.
Oh yeah.
Like he doesn't actually face plant.
No, that's like you've never obviously dropped the fight before, so like you're just I just got to throw myself. Like Tito Ortiz could have showed him a great way to just take a dive, right?
Yeah, I mean, again though, like that was a war, and he was definitely getting gassed. I wish he was just a little more technical at times, because when he was getting after his like the finishes, he's just throwing too much into it.
It really seemed like he had Ty on the ropes, and had he, to your point, just been a little bit more clinical, landed punches, set his feet a little bit, it could have been a much different fight. But Ty is, for 3 fights in a row now, shown that if he's got his back up against the wall, he's just going to come balls fucking to the wall and just come out away with it.
I picked Derek Lewis, but I think if you go back and look what I said, I think it went pretty much how it said it was going to go. That like Ty's not afraid to get in there and throw and bang, and I love they mentioned it in the first round when he gets knocked down and he's pretty much about to go out, and the first instinct was to get up and immediately start swinging. It wasn't like
he didn't try to
getting out of
grapple
the-
at
yeah,
all.
It didn't try to get him out of the position. He just got up and swung. And it was quite the same in the second round, that once Derek Lewis tried getting after him, he stood on the napkin with him and just fought. It's kind of like in the sequel to Creed, in Creed 2.
Wow. Okay.
You remember like when he's like, the way we're gonna have to beat him is we're gonna have to stand in the pocket, and he does the little thing where they both stand inside the
they stand in the pocket.
in the tire.
Yep.
They stand inside a tire, and it's like you can't leave this
Yep,
space.
you got to sit right here, and you've got to win the fight right here.
Yeah, and that
It's
was
that
kind of
toe-to-toe shit that Max Holloway's kind of known for, right?
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
we're going to do it right freaking here, and this is going to go to the wall.
exciting fight. Yeah, it was awesome. A lot of exciting fights. I thought the main card was great. I mean, Bobby Green was like incredible. He was just another Diaz brother, right?
So I think I was in a game chat when the Bobby Green fight was going on. And I just remember the person that I was talking to being like, dude, I don't give a damn what part of the card it is that Bobby Green is on. I'm going to always watch him fight because He's one of the guys that is always going to throw hands. His boxing is very crisp, but it's such an unorthodox boxing style because it's so good for MMA.
Yeah, it's
right?
I mean, he definitely has the hand speed of a boxer.
Like, his hands are down here almost the entire fight, and he's landing double, triple the punches of his opponent. It was a great fight for him. Someone even tagged it, this is Baby Rampage versus Calvin Gastelum's older brother. Like, if you look at the two of them, I was like, wow, this is actually perfect.
Yeah, Nasparad reminded me a lot of Calvin Gastelum. And it was definitely a matchup that seemed tailor-made towards Bobby Green, who was an underdog, I believe, on the actual card itself.
Hard-pressed to ask, when isn't he an underdog?
You know, and before getting to the main event, obviously we had a pretty big fight in the middleweight division. You had Jared Cannonier also have
versus Derek Brunson.
A really good comeback win. He had a tough first round, but he was fairly competitive nonetheless, but he got knocked down in the first round.
I was going to say Derek Brunson was in control, but you could tell that this fight was going to go right down to the wire.
This went much like before Blonde Brunson was a thing. I think this went a lot like most of his fights do, where like he can get going standing up, but he's not very fluid. He's a little like, you know, rigid and stiff.
He's boxy.
And on top of that, his gas tank, because he throws so hard in those exchanges and he's going so hard looking for, I mean, to his credit, I think he's looking for the finish.
He's trying to finish fights, yeah.
He's getting in there and throwing hard ground and pound on the ground. And like, he hasn't been in a boring fight very much recently, but this was just not a great performance for him, and it caught up to him in the second round.
Would you almost say that it becomes difficult for him to close out fights? Like, because he's trying so much to go for the finish, that it almost seems like what we're talking about with Derek Lewis, if he maybe steps back and is a little bit more calculated, he could close out the fight, right? Where it almost seems like he's over-aggressive, he's overextending himself.
Yeah,
and if you are boxy and not fluid, you're not going to be able to react the way that you need to if you're going to have that fight style.
Like, neither one of us are professionals, but it's like whenever, even like the most novice person can see, like, right, when your like head gets out over your feet, when you're like just charging forward like that.
The entire time, Derek Brunson's like this.
Yeah,
he's
like,
chin up
and
the
even
entire
Derek
time.
Lewis thing, it's like he's swinging from his, it's like he's losing balance when he's
They call it swinger from the ass.
Yeah, it's just, it didn't look great at certain points. And yeah, the finish, I think we could all see the writing on the wall in the second round. He looked so gassed out, and he just started walking into the punches.
Yeah, this is one of those instances also where inside close quarters, there is really no strike quite like an overhand elbow, I guess you could call it, when you're just coming up and you're swinging down on them.
That'll do to you like your equilibrium. Yeah.
It just throws everything off, and you see him shut the light off on Derek Brunson, and then he comes back up and actually ends up, or while they're on the ground, I want to say it's about 3, 4, or 5 unanswered elbows that are taken.
Yeah, a tad too late.
Bad ref job, but nothing you can fault Cannonier for. Do you think that Jared gets a title shot off this, because he's already coming off of a loss from Izzy?
Well, I mean, no, Jared never fought Izzy.
He has a loss against Izzy.
No, he hasn't. I
no?
promise.
Okay.
I know for a fact, because the whole thing with him and Izzy is like, Izzy's been calling for fresh blood, for new blood in the middleweight division this whole time.
I had seen. Okay,
and
you might be
Jared Cannonier has lost the fights that would have set him up to be the next contender for Stylebender. So that's why this is so big that he gets the win here.
Okay, interestingly enough. So
he's going to fight
does
him again.
This set him up?
I think he's going to fight him here, and it's either him or Sean Strickland, and I think Cannonier is the preferred person at this point for. You didn't have to check it, stats guy. I knew this one was. I knew this one.
Oh, put it up on the screen for me, buddy, because he could suck it.
Yeah, this is going to be a big one. I mean, in moving on, obviously, to the main event, it's like, is he going to bring out what Izzy needs brought out of him? Because I think it was Izzy's coach said to Ariel Helwani on Monday that they expected, you know, a little bit more aggressiveness from Robert Whittaker as that fight progressed. And it's, you know, you hear after the fact that Robert Whittaker thinks he's done enough to win, and Izzy said, like, you don't do enough to take the championship. You know, you have to go out there and take it. And I definitely would agree. I mean, he won the 5th round, and I think he at least maybe won another one, but I think Izzy
I gave him 3 and 5.
Okay.
So I don't think it was unanimous. No. Let me rephrase this. I don't think Izzy swept the cards, but I do think it went. I think it went 3-2.
It looked a lot like Robert Whittaker learned in the first round that he learned in the first fight, and then it continued into the first round of this fight that he can get hurt.
Took him some time to warm up.
I think it's that he realized Izzy can put him out.
Okay.
And the thing about it was you saw in rounds 2 through 5 that he managed he controlled how much damage he was going to take. Bisping pointed it out multiple times. His refusal to throw the right hand was 100% so he wouldn't eat a counter, which I understand because that's how he got knocked out the first fight. But
there was a few instances where Izzy had just missed him on a couple of them as well.
It's like, in props to him, it kept him in the fight. Switching the game plan and fighting conservative is what gives him the argument that he could have won 3 and lost 2. But it is very conservative fighting style. It's a fighting style you can take if you're Izzy holding the belt, but I don't think it's one that you can have if you're fighting to win the championship.
It becomes very difficult for, I think, the casual fan to look at that fight and think that Robert Whittaker won, right? And I think that coming in as a challenger is a problem for you. There's talks of him, how many takedowns he landed.
Takedowns were beautiful, by the way. I thought
beautiful
they were
takedowns,
amazing.
but didn't get much out of them.
No, he had a couple quick submission attempts, but yeah, it wasn't much there.
Didn't get much, and Izzy's thing is always, let's keep Izzy away from the cage because he's fantastic at utilizing his hips. Everything that I saw looked like they were able to stick to that game plan, but Izzy's takedown defense and ability to recover was just more than enough for him to come back.
And what you're supposed to judge fights on first and foremost, now the criteria in most of these sanctioning bodies is damage is the number one thing.
Yeah.
Izzy drops him in the first, and then throughout the fight is destroying his leg. That was the most damaging thing done throughout the entire fight. There was some really nice moments for Whittaker where he cracked him with some left hands. Yep. And the takedowns were very good, but to your point, there was not much done with them. So I think he showed that he is second best in the division. I want to see him fight Vettori next. I think that would be an interesting matchup.
Okay.
As far as guys that are on that next tier down from Israel.
Also, both guys have 2 losses against the champ.
Yeah,
so
they need some fresh matchups anyways, right? And Cannonier, I think, at least in the first go-around, is going to offer some of the things that Izzy hasn't gotten recently, which is somebody who's going to be willing to throw caution to the wind. And that's where Izzy hasn't gotten those highlight reels, I think, for the past 3 or 4 fights now, not including the Jan stuff, was just because he hasn't had people that are necessarily playing games, playing game with him. Vettori, I don't think necessarily threw caution to the wind during his fight.
Very conservative, if you want to talk conservative.
Yeah, and the same thing goes now with Whittaker. So.
Yeah, and props to Jared Cannonier for getting it done with an incredible finish, right? He does it in a big way. He's going to bring size to this matchup in a way. Israel, it doesn't get enough credit for being how tall he is.
No, he looked massive in this fight.
He looked huge in this fight, right? And made Robert Whittaker look every bit of a guy who used to fight at 170 pounds. When you look at Jared Cannonier, this guy used to fight at heavyweight, has fought at light heavyweight, looks like a prime stud at middleweight, not an ounce of fat on him. Mm-hmm. Is going to be the bigger physical guy, but Israel has seen that before in a guy like Yoel Romero, but we've also seen that doesn't really dictate being a great fight, but also Yoel played...
Costa would be a better...
Yeah, actually, that's another one. But see, it's tough to even... When you think about how that fight finished...
Yeah, I just as far as more recent and a younger fighter with that physical size, it didn't
Not
do
wrong.
it.
Yeah.
I think, interestingly enough, the guy who could assert, if he upped his takedown game, the same game plan as Jan and maybe hold him down is Paulo, just with how large he is.
So that's what I was going to say. Paulo wasn't going to be able to utilize a grappling strategy against Izzy. Jared Cannonier, if he's a smarter guy, might want to consider doing that because a lot of people believe that Robert Whittaker, had he done that,
he was trying.
I know he was trying.
That you can't say had he done it. That was the game plan. He tried to impose it. He was unable to impose the game plan. So it's not even try. It's he tried and was unable. He's shown that he's not going to be able to utilize. He needs a whole other game plan now because that game plan won't work.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
He can't go into the next fight and say well, if I try harder to take him down, it's well, no, you took him down 4 out of 8 times, I think it was.
Yeah,
and.
That was my thing. He had I want to say he had 10 attempts.
Yeah,
for takedown attempts, but it's for a bigger, more physical guy. Yeah. He's 6'4", gigantic for a middleweight dude.
Into a light heavyweight frame.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Coming in at 201, he was trying to make light heavy.
But I'd like to see more. Obviously, see more talent at middleweight because it'd be really interesting to see what he'd be able to do against some more talent.
Right.
But we'll move on.
Yeah, let's get into... we're only really going to talk about one trailer this week. We've pretty much stayed away from any of them. And you might be guessing it was going to be Doctor Strange, but I'm going to tell you you're fucking wrong.
Yeah, I would say it's strange that they would assume Doctor Strange.
Yeah, because I don't want to ruin that for myself. And I've heard that this new trailer gives away the whole fucking farm. So I'm not.
I'm all set with it.
Just not watching it. So what we did watch and what I'm okay with kind of spoiling for myself because I'm gonna. I don't know. I don't go to it for the same reason. But Jurassic World Dominion had their first full trailer come out. And Matt, what were some of your early thoughts on the matter?
Can I have some more? Like,
Yeah.
just give me more.
I don't want more.
So not that I want more trailer, but I am ready to see this film. I had jokingly said to someone at work, the only way that this movie gets me pumped is that you bring back some of the big wigs. I need Jeff Goldblum back in my life. Mm-hmm. And not only do you do that, but you do it in a way that still makes me care about Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, being able to bring this entire universe together. And now we're going to get to see some pretty interesting creatures. We're already seeing the feathery version of the raptor.
Yeah.
Looks awesome. They apparently go bigger with the new version of the T-Rex. It brought everything I needed to see. I'm good there. I don't need to see any more. Let's bring on the film. What did you think?
I'm probably biased at this point, but I genuinely enjoyed it. I think, first of all, it felt like a finale. Right, I think this trailer felt like the climax of what they've been building here, just in terms of scale.
Sure.
A lot of the set pieces and the action looks like this franchise is building in the right direction.
It's the decisive moment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I liked the contrast that they offered in a lot of instances. So the dinosaurs with new climates.
Yep.
The dinosaurs integrating with horses and
that little
wild, right?
Running through the Meadowlands.
That's really cool. Seeing them in a city, seeing the planes getting attacked, which I think happened maybe in the third one. In Jurassic Park 3. But either way, that contrast that we haven't gotten a lot of so far, and I think that's going to be the major selling point in this final movie is finally getting that
blending
crossover. The animated show has played around with dinosaurs in different climates a little bit. In the most recent season, they end up at a different island. And at the different island, it's basically they're doing experiments where they have climatized, it's a built-in area.
Yeah.
And there's a desert climate. There's a climate for the Antarctic.
Okay.
And it's seeing how these dinosaurs integrate. So it's
artificial
kind of
ecosystem, so to speak.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing them bring it that direction.
Okay. Well, it's even cooler when you get to see a T-Rex kind of taking down a what looked like a drive-in movie theater.
Yes, we saw that earlier too. That
was
at the end of that.
But just being able to see that in a little bit more context, it's really
the
awesome
first time we've
to see
seen
him
it
come
since
to life.
Jurassic Park 2.
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
some when he's at the house, right? He shows up.
I'm trying to think. I mean, again, when you're talking about CGI, the way that everything is filmed, it just looked more dynamic in this setup,
walking
right?
through the snow was it just
everything.
That's the first thing you see, and I think it draws you in.
Another one that really came out to me, and it was deadliest catch type thing, was when they were we can't coexist with these creatures. We no longer have dominion over them. We're subservient, right?
Yeah.
And you just see the giant aquatic T-Rex basically coming out, stealing the catch from the boat, takes the boat under, and you're like, this is how this would be. If we saw the world of Megalodon, if we saw the world of the Loch Ness Monster, all these gigantic creatures, this is essentially what it would be like. And it's pretty incredible.
The one piece of, it's not a concern, but I guess it's just something that is going to be part of this movie. You're bringing back the Laura Derns, and I can't remember I forget the other guy's name, but Jeff Goldblum being the other person, right? You're bringing back these older characters.
Sam Neill,
yeah. So you're bringing back these older characters, and what you end up having happen, I think, a little bit, is there's that scene at the very end of the trailer where they're why do they always need to make them bigger, which is a callback, right? To, was it the second one?
Yeah.
Is that the callback?
Yeah. It would kind of have to be, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. So it's a callback. I'm afraid you're going to get a lot of those cheesy moments where it's wink, wink, this happened before kind of thing. And that's just part of...
But isn't that... I think that's the only reason you bring Jeff Goldblum back, right?
Well, yeah, I think
that's why he's in
that. But you need that cynic voice to it, But yeah, I think that's the one piece to it there that I'm all right, I hope we don't get a ton of that cheesy callback stuff and just keep advancing the story.
You're hoping it sticks towards the latest trilogy,
yes,
where it's all action.
Doesn't try too hard to acknowledge.
Yeah, the jokes are there, right? We appreciate the small bits of comedy. One of my favorite ones is when the Raptors are I think they're speaking the same language here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we just lost the Raptors, and you're just oh no, shit's about to go down. You don't want it to have that weird comedic spin that sometimes the Marvel universe is kind of known for.
Yeah, if we can avoid.
We're just throwing jokes in just for the sake of throwing jokes in.
The Joss Whedon effect on movies.
Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't gonna throw the name out there, but okay. But yeah, you're overall obviously excited, unbiased.
100% bias. It's just like The Walking Dead, though. I'm going to tell people, like, I'm interested, so you should check it out.
It's going to be good. No, I'm excited.
Let's kind of get into what's coming up this next week. Maybe throw in a little bit of what you've watched too, Matt. So what have you had going on this past week?
So I've had a couple of people that keep nagging me about my my One Piece journey that I'm on right now with anime, and I first want to just
episode 642.
I'm not, but people are expecting me to be, and I feel like I've let some people down. I'm on 479, so I'm
shit,
almost
close.
So I'm almost at the 500 mark, which means I'm almost halfway there.
Do you remember episode like 112?
Vividly, believe it or not. So like I've been able to go through this show obviously in segments and arcs and have conversations with people who've watched the show, and I like people being able to say, "Oh, if you like that, you're going to love, in 200 more episodes, you're going to love this." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks. You kind of just took the steam off of the last 500 I just watched." But it's been an incredible journey to see the development of animation styles, to see characters develop. This is a show it's no secret why they've made it to 1,000 episodes, because they continue to strategically and impactfully introduce characters that tie the storyline together and tie things that you've seen 400 episodes ago.
Yeah.
That's something I've really been able to appreciate. I was afraid that a lot of this would be filler-filled and have a lot of episodes that didn't really tie into the plot. There's a little bit of that, but for the most part, I get what I came for. Love all of the character development. Being halfway there, I may take a break just to get a little bit of a palate cleanser.
You can only get like 500 episodes is a lot for anything.
It's a lot for anything, and I think I'll just jump into another anime. But I just have to bring an appreciation for that genre of content, because I think when it comes to the way that characters are developed, you want to talk about time traveling, sci-fi, fantasy. This is a genre that's been able to do all of that really well, and they continue to deliver the goods, man. So I'm kind of stoked on that. I'll continue to watch that.
I admire anybody who watches like anime to that extent, because I understand how difficult it is. And it's like every anime is like this, where there's just like a million episodes of all of them.
Yeah.
And so when you're like, yeah, I'm going to take a break from watching this anime that I've 500 episodes in, that maybe I'll go start like Attack on Titan and watch like another 475
For me, it's
episodes,
the other way. So I'm palate cleansing with something that doesn't have as much content. So anime lovers, Demon Slayer just is almost finished with their second season. So they'll be finishing up by the time that this comes out. So I will just jump through about 17 to 18 episodes of that, and they've wrapped that season, so I'll jump right back in here. But I'm interested to see, I've heard Attack on Titan is really good. I watched 3 episodes of it and genuinely just didn't like anything about it. Didn't like the animation style, didn't like the storyline. But because I just said anime is really good at doing everything really well, I may go back to it, because I've heard that the animation style is really developed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one I hear the best things about is Attack on Titan.
I can understand it. It makes a lot of sense. But, I'll be watching Demon Slayer this week, and I'll be catching up on that for anybody checking it out. What do you got going on?
My thing is not very cool that I've watched. I'm not bringing much interest. Well, I guess I have a few things that I brought to the table.
You're always bringing the heat.
But first, I've watched. I just finished up the Jennifer Lopez Owen Wilson rom-com that came out for Valentine's Day.
I was really hoping we were gonna get past this.
Yeah, so I watched "Marry Me," and it was perfectly fine. It was like, these movies are paint by number for me at this point, so I can kind of tell where they're going and what beats they're gonna hit. And this movie hit
it's
all
a Peacock
those.
film too.
Yeah,
so.
and it didn't do well in box office from what I understand this weekend.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard so Death on the Nile I'm going to see that today. That actually got the most money in the box office this week.
Uncharted.
I'm going to see that on
Uncharted's
Thursday.
coming out. I'll make sure to be catching that before we get back in here next week.
Yeah, I've got 2 movies at least that I'm going to see, and then Jackass somewhere fits in there maybe too if I can get out to it. So yeah, I've got a lot going on from that perspective. But "Marry Me" is, if you're into rom-coms, you got a girl you're trying to watch something with, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
J-Lo's songs are actually decent in it. She looks good, obviously. Owen Wilson is Owen Wilson. If you like his movies,
if you're a fan of any of his work, all right,
you're gonna get exactly what you would expect from Owen Wilson. He has some of those like Owenisms, I guess you'd put him as.
Wilsonisms.
Sure,
because his brother does the same thing.
Yeah. No,
Right.
Luke's a little different. But yeah, I get what you're
Whatever,
saying.
dude.
A couple other things I'd recommend watching out there that I've checked out this week. So I put you onto this, Matt. Brock Lesnar went on Pat McAfee's show this week, and it was just a phenomenal interview. Brock is right now a face for the first time in like ever in his career, basically.
It's really cool.
And him and Pat McAfee clearly have a very good relationship, and he went on his show and went on there for an hour and was just himself. After you watch some of that, does he at the beginning of that interview remind you in the way he's talking of like the speech pattern of a Diaz brother?
Yes,
Like,
very much so.
Just like he's saying stuff but not saying stuff at the same time, you know?
I mean, he started off singing, which I definitely did not expect.
Yeah.
And then, like, just the overall, again, to what you're talking about, him and Pat obviously have a good relationship. It felt like he was part of the show. It didn't really feel like an interview, but he has that attitude of just, I don't give a shit. I'm here. I can do whatever. I'll kick your ass. But what I just found hilarious, aside from the fact that he destroys a table within the first 5 seconds of the interview.
Yeah, like Hulk smash breaks a table.
Hilarious. Like, and he didn't put Wee Man through the table. Like, he does it just with his bare hands. Is just Brock Lesnar for just being this iconic figure, both in the WWE, in MMA and combat sports. He's a gigantic of a human being. Mm-hmm. The way that he speaks is just extremely...
He's captivating in his own way.
He really is. He has the ability to catch your attention, make you care about what he's talking about.
And he's like actually funny. Like he...
Organically funny.
Yes.
Like everything just comes out.
He's being himself.
It doesn't even mean to be a joke, and it's funny. And it makes you invest in that type of person. Like, I want to see what else he's doing. So to see that he's a face now, I'm so curious to see what they decide to do with that, because there's a lot of things that you can do with him. What's up, Bailey?
Yep. Give us 1 second. Yeah. So if you have any time cut out available for viewing online, that's definitely something I would give a shot at there. Is check out Brock Lesnar on the Pat McAfee show. If you're a fan of wrestling, or even if you've watched him in MMA, whatever, it's just, I think it transcends. It's a really good interview.
If you're interested in just having a good time and listening to a good interview, having nothing to do with sports at all, it's just a great conversation.
The one other thing I watched online this week, and I'm not sure which media outlet on like YouTube put this out. It feels like a variety thing though. It was Robert Pattinson doing it was all of his iconic roles, which I thought was like funny to call them iconic, because I don't think he's like an iconic tier actor. Maybe post Batman he'll start transcending to that.
He has one or two roles that I would say he's just genuinely known for, and then the other stuff it's not that big.
They're not. He doesn't take big roles, but
Yeah.
I did by watching this. It's about 30-40 minutes long. It was interesting to just get. He's an interesting dude in terms of his thoughts on acting. He's clearly very method in the way he does things. It was also interesting for me. I talked about recently watching the Harry Potter reunion.
Yeah.
And he was it was very weird that he wasn't involved in that at all.
Yeah.
Like that he didn't get an interview, because he is obviously
because he is
big
part
name,
of that thing.
A big name. He's he mentions on this, he's the first death in Harry Potter in the movies. He's the first character to die.
Do you think he's maybe tried to distance himself from that
lore,
so to speak?
I think he's distanced himself a lot from the stuff when he was younger, which was interesting to watch him talk about both Harry Potter and then talk about Twilight, obviously, which is something that was a major part of his career, but I don't think he basically talks about not loving it then. He thought a little too highly of himself and was a little pretentious, and he was trying to be a method actor, and he's doing this shit like that.
You and I have talked about Twilight and how it was like a larger than life
fandom as well, so all of that is just a bigger project than him, and having to be a part of that would probably be extremely exhausting.
He mentions how he makes all the money. He makes a bunch of money from Harry Potter, and he's like, I lived good off Harry Potter money. He's like, but then I spent it all, and I end up living on my my production. Whoever is his agent or whatever, he's living on their couch, and then he gets Twilight, and he's like, dude, my life didn't change. And then the second the movie's out, maybe a week before the movie's out, he's like, everything changed.
Yeah.
My whole life was different.
Can't walk outside without paparazzi blowing everything out.
So yeah, it's a good interview. He does a solid 10 minutes about taking on Batman and why he thought that was an interesting role. And one of the more interesting tidbits I think he gives away is he's like, I found it interesting to not be doing the origin story, so you're not spending an hour talking about the death. He's like, instead, you're gonna get they've been dead for a while, and I'm still hung up on their death, and I'm just a dark, emotional mess of a person. Yeah, and it's he's like, I found that to be a much more interesting take for myself to get involved with. And I think one of the things I came away appreciating about him was the reason he chooses roles. I just think is really unique. So I would recommend watching that.
It's something to appreciate in somebody who doesn't just take on everything that's offered to them.
A lot of these guys,
The Rock.
Yeah, or
sick of his shit,
Bruce
man.
Willis, you know.
Oh, we're gonna knock Bruce Willis again.
Any chance I get a bigger shot.
Oh, I'm so sick of The Rock.
You know, it's like he's like, you know, I love the way these guys write, so I went to them and I'm like, the next thing I do is want to work with them, and they're like, are you serious? Yeah, because we'll send you something in the next 6 weeks. Then he gets the script, he's like, I love it, and then he does it, and then he's like, he goes to a guy and he's like, I love the way you direct, like, I want to work on your next movie, and he just does that next. And
it's one of those where you're hoping that this is successful just because of the way that it comes about. So kind of because again, we watched the DC Heroes like little compilation of movies that they have coming out for a preview, and I was like, why is Black Adam being like paraded around as a hero? Like, why? Because it's freaking Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and like I'm just kind of over everything that he's a part of. To see that he tried to be Bruce Buffer for the LA Rams and Cincinnati Bengals before the Super Bowl.
They asked.
No, I'm sure that what I'm saying is like, I'm not interested. Give me the damn game. Like, I don't care that we have to watch 5 or 10 minutes of his fucking introductions. Like, I could do without it, man. It's like,
I haven't watched it. Everybody said it was cringy, and like, I've just kind of avoided it.
It's 10 minutes long. Like it doesn't need to be, man. Let's get to the freaking game. Let's get to the kickoff. Like, it's just, sorry to go off on this tangent, but fuck Bruce Willis, dude.
That seems like a nice place to kind of tie things with a bow for this week's episode, Matt. I think that's a sentiment we get to at least once a month, where like it's just like, fuck Bruce Willis. He's the problem with a lot of what's going on here.
Bruce Willis, Netflix, Kanye West.
I think we've turned into kind of a Netflix podcast, if I'm being completely honest.
Well,
like, we've really flipped in the past year. People can change. Like, they say you can't change. People can change, man. We're Netflix guys now.
We haven't checked the numbers in Argentina, but I'm sure we're killing it as a Netflix podcast down there.
Yeah.
Like, all of South America, Latin
I
America.
haven't checked the Netflix, like the Netflix podcast charts, but I'd imagine we're climbing those just as quickly as the wrestling charts.
How do you know who has the movies and TV shows if you're not tuning into For Those With Good Taste?
It's a very good point.
Like, and there's only a couple of places that you can really tune into, right?
Yeah, we want to tell people where they might be able to see it.
Fuck yeah,
or
dude.
listen to it.
So if you're into like the videos and you want to look at our pretty mugs all day,
yeah. If you want to see the Matt's like extravagant reactions to when I say funny shit.
Talking a lot
he does a lot with his hands if you're listening.
And the amount of mouth breathing that happens is a little disturbing.
It's funny you bring that up. Are you saying that because like I think I've been mouth
I'm so self-conscious right now. But if you want to have all the fun with us, YouTube is the place to go. We've got our channel, For Those With Good Taste. Obviously, you've got good taste, so that's where you want to be. You got to drop a subscribe, hit us with a like. Let us know what you're feeling in the comments. We had some pretty awesome comments this week. Interesting take on the Toy Story tier list.
Can we check, I thought it was funny what you responded with. Know Your Craft, like, shout out to you. You're awesome, man.
Shout out. Appreciate the comments.
So, I don't know how we can have Toy Story 3 ranked above Toy Story 4. I do get the point of being like, it just feels like a movie that they knew they could get money off of 10 years later. But it is a good movie,
It's
man.
a good film.
It's a good movie.
That's why I was like, some might say that this is just a list of release date. This has no actual proprietary
bearing on
the actual rankings. But shout out to you, man. We appreciate the feedback if that's how you're feeling. Give us your argument. Let us know why you think so.
Yeah.
But, and then if you're not able to catch the beautiful mugs and you can only give us your ears, where can they find us, Len?
We're across like every major audio platform, Matt. So like, for instance, if you want to, be shuffled up in your life, check out Pandora, maybe. Cool. You could always go to iHeartRadio. I don't know how you really listen on there, but we're on there.
Yeah.
That's kind of sweet, right? Spotify, that's my favorite streaming network.
I'm boycotting right now for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I get why you're out. I'm still in because obvious reasons. So that's where I listen. Matt, you're an Apple stan. So
damn right I am.
You are listening through Apple Podcasts. We have our good friend D, who does the podcast with us sometimes. He's a Google guy, so he's on Google Podcasts.
He's on the Play Store.
You can do Google Hangouts with us, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I've also heard he occasionally travels down.
Oh, down south.
Yeah, he travels down south, holidays normally.
To D's nuts,
to D's nuts, he travels down there.
But sometimes D's is a part of that conversation, too.
Cool.
So have fun with it. Catch us in audio, video, stereo. That could be a cool way to do it, too.
Surround
But You can always catch
Dolby
us
Atmos.
right back here in Good Taste Studios, or maybe we'll be out there in the digital space. You never know.
And if
So
you
gotta
haven't
keep
yet,
checking
Matt, and if you haven't yet, right, you gotta drop a like. Again, comment if you want to get in the discussion with us, please.
Subscribe.
And subscribe. Tell a friend.
Like
Hit
you
the
don't
bell at
have
the top,
you don't
whatever.
have to get a tat for us to know that it's real, but you do have to subscribe for us to know it's real. And we hope you come back next time because we're here and you're there. Have fun. We'll see you next time.
Right.
Bye.
Peace.
For those with good taste.